Hey Jim, how's it going? How's it going, Dubs? How's it going? Welcome. We're gonna get started soon. I'm just loading everything right now, so hang tight, you guys. Had a couple issues setting everything up. I'm on a new platform. Preacher, how's it going? How's it going? Jad, welcome. We're gonna get started. Give me about like one minute. We should get everything on the road. Good morning. Testing 1 2 3. Dubs, what's going on? We're just getting everything set up. And the reason why it took me so long is because I was putting together like intros and stuff for the lives that I'm doing. So I'm trying to do this thing legit. All right. What's up, everybody? Oh, you guys don't want to see this. All right. Welcome. Who do we have in the chat? Who do we have here today? I need to pull up my phone so I can see the chat because I can't really see anything right now. I'm not getting any of your messages on this Meld Studio. Anybody out here use Meld? Anyways, welcome you guys, whoever's tuning in. We are basically doing our third live stream, and I basically want to kind of do a little reaction video on an interview that I came across last night. And this is basically on the channel Surviving the Survivor with host Joel Waldman. And I came across this interview last night, and he talks to a few people, including Steve Fisher. And it was a pretty good interview, and I want you guys to take a look at it if you guys haven't seen it yet. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Let me go ahead and start it really quick, and then we'll just get a reaction from all of you guys. In the past couple of days, there's been a lot of stuff coming out. Steve Fisher has actually been, posting some what you would call trolling tweets, basically, and we'll go get into them a little bit later. But let's go dive into this video and get your thoughts on it.
Celeste Rivas Hernandez found wrapped in plastic inside the front trunk of a Tesla belonging to rising music star David. Police now issuing a telling statement that could change everything, while new video evidence drags the artist's inner circle into the spotlight. So why is LAPD now saying, and I quote, "no further crimes confirmed," even as a private investigator who's on this very show today claims this story is far from over?
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. It is a show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime. Tonight, some interesting new twists and turns in the David Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. Some newly surfaced video evidence reportedly places David's brother and manager now under scrutiny. LAPD, meanwhile, issuing a no further crimes confirmed statement. And private investigator Steve Fisher, who's been inside the Hollywood mansion that was being rented by The R&B singer David says what he found tells a very different story. Without further ado, that private investigator is kind enough to join us right now, right here. Steve Fisher, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to dive into this. Josh Ritter, who has a hard out in an hour. He is the host of the up and coming, or has it already arrived, Courtroom Confidential. He's got the shirt on. I love it. He is also former prosecutor of the year, current criminal defense attorney. The guy does it all. And last but not least, a new friend of mine, thanks to Josh Ritter's introduction to him, Michael Friedman, criminal defense attorney out of Los Angeles. And he, too, is a former prosecutor, but a former federal prosecutor, unlike Josh Ritter. And I believe Michael Friedman, I saw Harvard on that resume. So, I don't like to name drop, but every once in a while you see Harvard and means the guy's pretty smart. So here we go. So Steve Fisher, this is fascinating to me. I mean, I know you don't ever want to be the story, Steve. I know that's not your intention, but in a lot of ways you become part of this story. I mean, I guess let's start there. How does that feel for you that you're being quoted left and right by all these media outlets?
Well, I mean, I really investigate my cases the same way in every case. And, some of them do, turn into big media stories. But, I don't have that power that a prosecutor or law enforcement have of, being able to issue warrants or subpoenas. So I sometimes have to kind of play, to the public and, ask for people to come forward. And, sometimes that throws me in the middle of things. And it's just the way it is.
Yeah. And Steve, this LAPD statement about the no further crimes confirmed in the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, was this something new that they issued? Did this come via a soundbite? How did we learn of this?
From what I understand, and I'm not sure that I have the exact story, but KTLA, I think, asked LAPD for a statement, and I believe that they just said that they were standing on their prior statement, which said there might not be any crimes, there might not be any criminal culpability beyond concealment of a body. I don't think they came out and said that they were affirming that they haven't found any new crimes or anything. I think that kind of got spun in the media. I think it was just them simply saying we stand on our previous, statement at this time.
Yeah. Here, and by the way, Steve has seen video that almost no one else has, except probably the LAPD. We're going to get to that in a minute here. But here you see LAPD investigating the case to some degree, at least taking out some evidence. Josh Ritter, I guess the big question I have is just this. First of all, the overwhelming silence. We really haven't heard anything. And again, like this last statement, basically you just heard Steve say it came from essentially KTLA, who reached out to LAPD, standing by their original basic non-statement. And again, the quote is no further crimes confirmed in the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. I mean, you used to work inside the prosecutor's office that works in tandem often with the LAPD. Are you surprised that we haven't heard more, that they haven't come out publicly and said, something to at least satisfy the public thirst for this case?
I mean, the LAPD being closed-lipped is not entirely new. So for them to be like, usually they would issue a statement along the lines of it's currently under investigation, we haven't made any determination yet, something incredibly vague. I think what makes this a little unique and is causing everyone to ask a lot of questions is they didn't entirely do that, because they released some indication of where they stand on this. And that is that at this point, they don't know if they have evidence of a crime beyond the concealment of a body. So a couple of things we can take from that is, one, concealment of a body they believe to be a crime, but they've made no arrests. So they do believe they have evidence of a crime, but they've made no arrest in relation to that crime. And two, I think the fact that they're saying it, to me, you would expect them to say something along the lines of, we don't have, we're doing further investigation. We'll let you know. But for them to say we don't have evidence, it's almost like they're setting us up for a soft landing. That's the way I read it, is that the next statement will come out is that they've completed toxicology, they've completed the medical exam, they've completed everything that they need to do forensically, and they have no evidence of foul play here beyond the concealment of her body, and they're not going to make any homicide arrest. I think that's what they're setting us all up for, because it's just such a kind of bizarrely revealing statement from LAPD without saying anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Michael, just to add on to, I was going to ask you a totally different question, but Josh is talking about this concealment of a body. I'm not sure if you can explain it a little bit more. I think a lot of people are confused. I think in California, from the way I understand it, it's a misdemeanor. Just hypothetically, I mean, she had to get into that frunk somehow. Let's just say they say it was David who put her there. Is that a crime or not? That's where I think where people get confused.
Well, I think it's a good question, and people are right to be confused, because it's sort of, to Josh's point, like it's the sort of crime that it'd be surprising to see it charged on its own, right? In other words, like if you're concealing a body, it's a little bit less about the concealment and more about the body. Like, how did the body get there?
Right.
It's fairly odd set of facts. It's like a weird bar exam hypothetical that there's a body as to which there was no homicide crime. Nonetheless, someone took the steps to conceal it, right? Typically, you can't have one without the other. So I think Josh is exactly right that doubtless they're investigating it as a homicide. If they can't make a case out for homicide, it would seem a little bit strange to then bring a case against someone for just concealment, because presumably whoever's being investigated for the concealment would also be under investigation for, getting the body there in the first place, i.e. the homicide, right? There's cases, I mean, in theory, you could have multiple people involved, right? And so then someone could be like an accessory after the fact to a homicide that they didn't directly commit, or someone could help conceal a body once someone else has committed the homicide. But I think that's the confusing element here, is nobody really thinks of this as just a concealment case, but they seem to be trying to figure out whether they can actually make out a case for more.
Yeah, and Josh, apt in here, just to piggyback on what Michael just said, why is concealing a body not obstruction? Then I'm going to go heavy with Steve Fisher. He's got a lot of answers, I think. So I apologize in advance. But Josh, why not obstruction here?
It's an excellent question, but it goes back to what the point that Michael was just saying, is how rare is it to have a case where someone conceals a body where there's no foul play and how that body ended up being a body. In other words, you've got a homicide-less body that then somebody goes about concealing. It just, you never usually see that. Usually they're concealing the body because there was foul play involved in the death of that person. So to Afton's question, what would they be obstructing? If there was no homicide, you can't obstruct the investigation of a homicide by concealing the body. So again, I think they land back on just concealment of a body being the only crime committed here. Now, just because she may have died by means that are not, violent in nature, also doesn't mean that there isn't somebody who can be held responsible. I mean, we just saw a case here in California that made some nationwide headlines involving two models who were dumped at different hospitals. Mm-hmm. And the gentleman responsible for that provided them with drugs. And the drugs are what the overdose of the drugs were laced with fentanyl and a bunch of other chemicals. That is what caused their death. So that might be the type of case that you could easily see, well, it was accidental. It was an accidental overdose, which may be the situation here. But if they're providing this young woman, Celeste, with drugs that are, street drugs laced with other more serious drugs, I see a pathway that they could still charge them with homicide, even in that situation.
Interesting. That guy got like 400 something years. We had a sister on the show.
Pierce.
Anyone?
David Pierce.
David Pierce.
Mhm.
Yeah. Blackwood or here. Anyone dating a kid is a sicko. That's a crime. That's a good point too. We'll circle back to that because, Steve, one of the things I believe I read, correct me if I'm wrong, you were looking at other toxicology reports from that similar time, and they're almost all have come back, except you can't seem to locate Celeste Rivas Hernandez's tox report. What is your thought process on that specifically?
Just to touch up on that really quick too, there's a post on Reddit that somebody put up there, and they did a really detailed spreadsheet on all of the deferred cases and all of the pending toxicology reports from the medical examiner. So we'll take a look at that too. I have that up as well, so we'll take a look a little bit later after this.
Well, I've just been tracking the deaths on the same day as hers, and plus about 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. And a lot of those that were in deferred status have now have cause and manner of death, and particularly the ones that are shown to be because of fentanyl overdose or whatever. It shows that they would determine that through toxicology. So I do believe her initial toxicology is back. Now that does not mean that it was a successful tox. They could have said not being able to get a result out of that, and it has to go out for additional forensic testing. I'm just saying that I believe that the initial round of toxicology is back, and this might mean that either toxicology was not successful and they're having to send it out for a different type of testing, or it came back and it's clearly not from an overdose, and now they're in the medical examiner's in-house investigators possibly working with robbery homicide to dig in deeper and figure out, okay, what is the cause of manner of death, because it might have thrown them off. I don't know. It's just hers is taking long, but that's not unusual considering she was in an advanced state of decomposition either. So I was just pointing out that I think, the initial results are back. It doesn't mean that they were able to use it for determination though.
Yeah. And by the way, now there's also talk about David's brother and manager the manager had faced some scrutiny early on. Why that is, we'll discuss in a moment. But first, I spend like half my day literally deleting email spam. It drives me insane. My mother, Carm, has 288,000 unread emails. She's a lot smarter. She just leaves them there. That's why you might need that. You guys know I love the COE. Well, I'm to myself. If you're in Fargo, I know what you're going through, and I feel your pain. But spring is right around the corner. Steve Fisher. Now everyone's going to send me hate mail. So now you've got the brother and the manager back. And I got to be honest, I am reading everything that's coming in on this case, but it's so hard to peel back the onion on this. Are they being scrutinized now because of the video that you saw? And from what I understand, you've been pretty tight-lipped about what you've seen. So how are people knowing that this is the brother and the manager potentially who were maybe the last ones to drive this car?
To be honest with you, I haven't heard anything about that. Especially the brother. The manager, as far as the manager lives out of state, so I don't believe. I'm not sure exactly what. There's a lot of rumors going around. I'm not sure exactly which one you're referring to, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's basically it. That the brother and the manager. I think people are making the assumption from what you saw. I don't know why, but they're basically deducting from whatever you have said publicly to assume that maybe it's the brother and the manager, unless it's coming from another source, which I can't seem to locate. But you haven't publicly come out, right, and said that what you've seen. I know you've seen the video, but you haven't described what's on that video. Am I correct?
It's correct. Yeah, I haven't disclosed who it is, either singular or plural. And I will say, I don't want to narrow it down and, play games with people, but just because I believe the brother is a minor, I'll say I've never brought his brother into the case at all. So, I'll say it's not the brother driving the car.
By the way, someone in the chat is from Fargo. I would love for you to just let us know what the temperature there was last night. I'd be curious. I apologize. I just lost your name. But Michael, from a sort of a prosecutorial perspective, and Michael was a federal prosecutor. This is obviously in the jurisdiction of Los Angeles County. Why would the police even issue this no further crimes confirmed statement mid-investigation? I mean, they're basically not saying anything. I mean, to Josh's point, he said maybe it's so they can create some sort of soft landing so people aren't irate when this guy potentially is not charged with, homicide or manslaughter or something. But what is the, I guess, the strategy from a prosecutorial perspective of even saying this mid-investigation, which it seems like where they're at?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question, and I think that there may not necessarily be a strategy behind it. I mean, it may be it's sort of akin to like a no comment from a defense lawyer, or the investigation continues is something the feds like to say at the end of every press conference. I'm sure that the investigation continues, and I think probably on the side of the detectives and the DA. Nobody's really, I don't know that anyone's overthinking it necessarily, right? It's presumptively a homicide, if anything. And so saying that no further crimes are being investigated, could very well mean that a homicide investigation remains ongoing. Robbery and homicide, I think, is the detectives handling the case, and they're some of the best at that. And, they're very dogged. They run around with this literally murder book, and they follow every lead and pursue every angle. And, I don't think that their statement to the press is inconsistent with any of that. I certainly wouldn't think that the investigation's over. I think Josh may very well have a point that it may not necessarily lead anywhere. And so not overcommitting at this point is probably helpful. But beyond that, I'm not sure it's particularly strategic.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Ritter, let me just ask you a ridiculous pedestrian question. I mean, is this just a weird case? I mean, it seems like every other case you follow, like there's answers, there's statements, there's comments from the police, there's tangible information. Here, everything seems to be like almost like a mirage. It's like it might be, it might not be. There's video, but we don't know what's on the video. I mean, is this bizarre in your opinion?
Well, I think it's bizarre in that when it first broke, we all immediately thought somebody killed this poor girl. I mean, the idea that the car was abandoned, like that they did that on purpose, that they wrapped her in plastic, put her in the trunk, that they wasn't even discovered until a year or so. I mean, sometime later in a tow yard, and then we find out, she's connected. That car's connected to David, the singer. The last time that car was located anywhere was at this house where he also was renting that house. It's like all the pieces immediately started falling together at the beginning, and myself included, we all thought, any second now, an indictment's coming. Any second now, we're going to be hearing about him being arrested, and it hasn't happened. And I think that's the part where people are starting to go, well, then what the heck is going on? I mean, to add to this, at this point, RHD has investigated or has interviewed, I'm sure, everyone, and they know where everyone was at the time that they believe she died, or at least, during that time period, however many days it is, they're able to narrow it down to. Why haven't they also cleared people? I mean, the one person that we're all kind of curious about is David here. I would expect if they were able to clear him, they would have, but they have not done that. In other words, if they could put him in another location at the time they believe that she lost her life, I think we would have heard about that, but we haven't heard about that. So to me, it's just causing my
Deladag, really quick. This is an interview that came out 3 days ago on Surviving the Survivor. I came across this interview last night, really, really late at night. And this is actually one of the interviews that I've seen Steve Fisher sit almost throughout the entire interview. So there's a lot to take away from this.
myself included, everybody to just kind of say, what's going on?
Well put. And I agree with a lot of what you just said. From the COE herself, for those who are new to the show, that would be the chief of everything, aka our executive producer, aka my wife, aka my business partner, along with Steve Cohen. Steve Fisher, from her, we watched previous interviews. Can you walk us through what you observed as you walked through the house that David was staying at? What stood out? I know you need to be careful about it. First of all, is it a mansion in the sense? I mean, I don't think we're talking, Michael Jackson's home here, but it's a nice home in the Hollywood Hills. Can you kind of set the scene, what it was like, what you saw as you went through there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful, multi-story house in the Hollywood Hills. To most people, probably be a mansion. But it's in that neighborhood. It's just one of the houses. She was found on the 8th, and I know and then I don't think she was identified until the 18th, if I remember correctly. I could be off by a day or two there. I know as early as the 12th that they were in the neighborhood, robbery homicide, looking for surveillance. So they had tied the car to the house pretty quickly, and then a search warrant was executed. Actually, maybe she was ID'd on the 16th, and on the 17th, the search warrant was executed. And right after that, the manager who actually had leased the home, the owner of the home, did not know that David, was staying in the house. He had called and wanted to break the lease, and they came to an agreement. And immediately they had sent movers over to get what they wanted out. And then the house was turned over. Then the next day, there was another set of movers, including the owner. The owner had been arranged to, had the house cleared out and stuff. And that's when I got involved and got to see kind of what was left behind. And I've only seen what was left behind after they, tendered the keys back to the owner. And there was still some significant things. And there was still a lot of stuff in the home. And there were some things that I've mentioned before. I can't say exactly what they are, but did not belong in that home, and could be used to get rid of a body permanently. And there was also some digital media that was left behind that we've been able to put some pieces together from. And of course, just
Della Dank asks, Flo, do you think the camera was left after the fact? And if so, on purpose? Because it makes no sense at all. Why wouldn't they take the evidence with them? That's a good question. I don't know. If I were LAPD and I was investigating and I was, collecting evidence and I saw a camera, I would definitely take that camera into evidence. I mean, it's electronic. Steve Fisher said that there were thousands of photos on there. Not sure entirely how many photos were. Yeah, but if I were LAPD serving a search warrant, I would have taken the electronic camera. The electronic. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't have left it behind. And who knows? I mean, maybe the warrant that the LAPD had was very limited in some of the things that they could take, but I would assume that if they had a camera, they'd be able to take it. So it beats me as to why they didn't take it.
being that he, him and his wife do own this house and have a relationship with neighbors and whatnot, we've been able to collect information and some surveillance. And there's a pretty robust private armed security patrol in the for the neighborhood, and so we've been able to discuss with them. They're on 24/7, so they're constantly driving by the house, and they have body cam and dash cam and whatnot. So.
Are you still working for the mansion owner in the same capacity?
I am. Yep.
You are. Okay. And you also, when you went through the home, I know one of the things, at least that you were quoted about, and now I'm speaking to you directly, you were quoted as having said that you found sadistic materials. mean, do you still stand by that? Were these sadistic materials? I know you're not, you don't want to say what it was, but I mean, number one were they sadistic? Number two, are you surprised that LAPD, who apparently photographed this, didn't seize some of these things?
So I did say that these are really like sadistic in nature, and it really, stuck out.
There he
And,
goes,
I
having
know
to
some
recall
people
his
have
words.
misquoted me saying that they were farm machinery or something like that. I think what I said was these are items that you would find in a farm or farm-like environment, not in a house in the Hollywood Hills. And yeah, I stand by that. I am surprised that LAPD didn't take the items. Now, I will say that they were still in brand new form. So they were still,
Right.
packaged, crated, like they came. So it's not illegal.
So they were still boxed and wrapped like
Yep.
I'm just going to use, this is totally me giving an example. Let's say it was a buzzsaw. It was still in the box with the plastic wrapping, so it wasn't like it was used stuff.
That's right. And so maybe it's because, it's not illegal to think about doing a crime, if they haven't been used. However, I think in the totality of the case, might have had evidentiary value, but I'm not a lawyer either, so maybe I'm wrong. But I do think that it's a mindset. It's the mens rea of the situation possibly. But I don't know. I don't know whether they did say when we did double back with them just to make sure that this something they had noticed. They did say they photographed it.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
because I know people lead into everything. There was multiple items. It wasn't just when I say it. I should have said them.
Yeah, and Michael, I mean, to you, again, a former federal prosecutor, current criminal defense attorney in Los Angeles. Let's just stop there. I mean, he's Steve, who is representing the mansion owner in this case, and walked through, is now saying he found materials of a sadistic nature, and the LAPD was there. They leave him behind. Is that surprising to you that they weren't bagged as evidence, even though they were packaged?
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't know exactly what it was and what else was there, but I don't think it's uncommon in these situations. Even when detectives or agents have a clear-cut theory, there's still the fog of war element to these searches, right? And whatever they went in looking for may have been the focus. Whatever else was seen later, they, may simply have not seen or may not have factored in. I think there's also probably a question of whether they expected to have access to the house again. If there's a real sense that the case may involve destruction of evidence, or going back to the earlier question, obstruction of justice, right? Then there's more of an urgency to lock everything down. In a case like this, the focus was probably more on the car and the body. And then presumably there was some hierarchy of priorities within the house that this may not have entered into. And so it may simply have escaped any recognition, relevant to the investigation. But it's also very common. I think Josh has probably seen this as well on both sides, as prosecutor and defense attorney, that sometimes the detectives just miss something, and later the prosecutor says, boy, it would have been nice to have had that. Why didn't you get that? And then obviously the defense, if it comes to that, can try to raise an issue about it, whether it would have been favorable or not favorable. But I think, as I said, these investigations often occur quickly. Not all the pieces are necessarily clear at the beginning. And, we never know exactly if it was a deliberate decision or if someone just missed something, or what the significance may later prove to be.
Josh Ritter, I mean, this comment here, I'm not suggesting it's true at all, but when you hear that there's quote unquote sadistic evidence, and when you hear that, basically the investigation is not revealing anything much more than maybe concealment, and you've got a dead teenager in the front of a car, then you start getting comments like this, which is, this smells like a cover-up. I would like to think that the second largest police department in the nation behind the NYPD, that they would process a crime scene properly, that they would go in there and seize evidence, that they would seize these sadistic materials and take it, not just photograph them, but take these things and hold on to them. Am I living in, no pun intended, la la land here?
No, you're not. I think Michael makes an excellent point, though, that it's, I have seen in investigations before where, at the beginning, they don't know entirely the importance of everything. I mean, you got to think they find this body. It's in such a degree of what's the term I'm looking for? The condition of the body is such that they can't immediately determine a cause of death, right? So there doesn't appear to be anything about her condition with all the decomposition that they can tell, oh, this was a shooting, oh, this was a stabbing, whatever it is. So they don't quite know what might be important back at the house. If they had, clear signs of ligature around her neck or clear signs of a bullet, wounds to her, then they know exactly what they're looking for. But now they've got a body that isn't giving them any information. So they go back to the house and it might be, well, what is it that's important? And some things that might, and I hope this doesn't happen here, but we have seen cases that some things that might carry significance down the road don't immediately have that significance when they're executing the warrant. And I will say, too, if there are tools, let's say, and I know Steve has got to kind of play this close to the chest, but if there are tools that may have been something someone would use to aid in disposing of a body, but they're obviously not used and the body doesn't indicate that they were used, then also they would lose significance as far as evidence. But I guess it goes to, I don't see any signs of a cover up here, but I am curious from Steve if he feels, and I don't want to have him throw LAPD under the bus, but if he feels confidence that they've exhausted everything that they need to do in this investigation. And it could just be sometimes investigations end up with no good answers.
Yeah. I mean, Steve, do you feel like it was a comprehensive processing of the crime scene, or do you feel like it was shoddy?
So I guess before I give an answer on that, this will kind of set that up. And I think it's something that both of them were talking about. It's important to realize, too, is that these search warrants aren't a free for all either. They're in there. It determines what they are allowed to search for. And now, of course, there can be some broad statements in there that you can kind of seize things under. But if it's not done right, then it's going to get excluded at trial anyway. So, and I do think that the focus of this search warrant, although they did not leave the search warrant or the search warrant return like they're supposed to, they didn't leave it where they said they left it. And we haven't seen it. We've been trying to get a copy of it, but they said they left it, in a certain place, but it wasn't there. So we don't know exactly, what the judge authorized, but I 100% believe that they were mostly there for digital evidence. They wanted the DVR that records the whole security system. The first thing they did was unplug and take that. And we knew they would. We wanted them to. And also we saw them walk out with a computer. And so I think that, and then it was reported, I have no evidence and no insight to this, that they were searching for blood evidence. I didn't see the text in there that usually will be doing the luminol, but maybe it just wasn't really, they weren't really caught on camera, but I didn't see anybody in Teva suits and whatnot. So I think they were looking for digital evidence, and there was a lot of stuff left in the house. So they weren't there that long of a time. So, maybe they got what they were looking for, because we don't know what they had prior to that. I know that they've been out there as early as the 12th searching for video evidence. And I think just because the nature of the neighborhood, they got a lot of it, a lot of surveillance probably. Now, as far as, your question, do I think it was exhaustive? I think what their focus was, they probably have been very exhaustive. Robbery homicide is an amazing unit. And I don't believe that there's a cover up here at all. I really don't. I think it gets frustrating for the public and for me and for those that aren't, getting all the information. It gets frustrating when 2 months go by and there's a 14-year-old that lost her life. And there's parts that I'm very frustrated with, which are like, it doesn't seem to be any attention on the sex crimes here, that I'm very confident happen, but I'm not sure will be prosecuted because she's not here to testify. And, and that's just nature of my business. I deal with a lot of teen, I only do missing person cases. So I deal with a lot of
Steve, let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
I just have to stop as a journalist. What makes you believe that sex crimes were involved? It wasn't just a friendship.
Now this part right here is was telling. So pay attention to this part right here.
There's just so much circumstantial evidence, and I understand that's circumstantial, but it's still evidence. And I will say that I've had access to that Discord server that they had, and there's things in there. A lot of it has leaked out online, but there's some that haven't. And just by the nature of, listen, even her saying in that online stream, accusing him of, crimes against minors, and it seemed to be kind of an open secret. People would joke about the Epstein Island, if they were asking and this is back a year before this happened. So, she had been picked up in the Hollywood Hills, and from what I understand, by when first time she went missing, and from what I understand at, his place, different place, but at his place, I just think there's a lot of, at least for them to dig further into, let's say, and she even talked about, there's some text messages of hers that have kind of leaked where she was talking about, sexual relationships. So,
this is this gets really interesting. Michael, obviously to go from either sex crimes and or concealment, what do you need to then bridge it to a criminal indictment, right? You need to have something to get you to that finish line.
Yeah, and I think, that the detectives, look, the last thing you asked me was what they may have missed, but I think it's also important to focus on what they may be focused on, right? Which is the main thing, right? And these are trained, pretty expert people. And to a certain extent, an investigation has to be a fishing expedition, right? You don't want to ignore leads. You don't want to ignore evidence, but you also don't want to lose focus, right? And so I think there's a big difference between, finding a body and knowing you're investigating a homicide versus seeing an article online a year ago and then thinking, well, maybe we need to investigate whether this was also a sex crime, right? And so prosecutors often use the term thin to win, right? So this, I don't necessarily see this as turning into some multifaceted indictment that includes a homicide and then obstruction by witnesses and then some sort of sex ring in the background, right? That may be more helpful for the headlines, but I think, the detectives and the prosecutors are probably focused pretty clearly on, what this seemed at the beginning, right? Which is ultimately what the prosecutor is going to be thinking about. What's the case about? It's about a dead body found in a car. Maybe there's other parts of it, sure. But I think that goes back to the point that Josh was talking about earlier in terms of the comment more recently of what they're investigating, no further crimes. Maybe that's part of it, right? And investigations are different, right? Sometimes they do need to be broad, and sometimes you don't really know which way they're going to take you. But I think from a prosecutor's perspective, when you find a dead body, it's pretty safe to assume it's either going to be a homicide case or it's not, and that's the main question to be answered, the main hypothesis to be tested.
Yeah. Ned Smith, interesting comment that the victim's last name was Kardashian. This case would be solved by now. To the contrary, this is a minor child, 14, the time she lost her life. Obviously had a lot of difficulties at home. There's a little more information that has come out about that. Thank you to Alicia here for gifting a membership. Appreciate it. But Josh, at the very least, isn't there a crime involved here? Because this is a minor child who's with an adult who's run away from home. Is that not a crime?
That's a great question. Like, is it like a harboring of a minor, or somehow aiding in?
Yeah, I mean, if she's a minor and
Yeah,
at the very least, she's just living with him and he doesn't report this, right?
aiding in delinquency or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I imagine there's other creative things they could be looking at, but I mean, it's this case is a homicide case or not. I mean, I think that's what their primary focus is getting down to that. To Steve's point about obvious elements of perhaps sex crimes taking place here, I think absolutely, and I think that if they ever did bring homicide charges, they would probably look into attaching those to the case as well. But again, it comes down to proving it. Without her, it's going to become that much more difficult to prove what was actually taking place between them unless people are talking. And that's the other point that I think is interesting, is this has been so long now. And usually in these cases, somebody talks. Like, it doesn't always necessarily come down to forensics and the autopsy for a case like this to break. That sometimes in these cases, when you've got more than one individual, probably several individuals who are either directly involved or have knowledge of what took place, somebody cracks. Somebody can't keep their mouth shut. Somebody gets scared and says, I know what happened. I don't want to be a part of this. This is what took place. And I just can't believe that hasn't happened already. And if it has happened, then I think we can kind of guess what they were told didn't lead them to believe a homicide took place. So I really think, listen, this is a tragedy any way you look at it, but I really think what this seems to be leaning towards is the idea that she lost her life, and not directly at the hands of anyone. And then a bunch of, music people, industry
yet, right?
people, selfish, thinking about how does this affect them immediately, instead of calling police and 911 and everything else, they start figuring out how to cover it up. And that's where all of the suspicion comes from.
Yeah, so we are getting a little more information about Celeste Rivas from the media, that she frequently ran away from home. She had a lot of tension with her parents. This is according to WION, which I imagine is a local affiliate out that way. There were disciplinary issues, possible online grooming per these reports. The quote here said Celeste had difficulty with her parents' rules and spent long stretches away from home before she disappeared. Steve, I think you even commented how her history complicated the missing persons investigation, because people thought maybe she was a runaway. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, she did have a history of running away, but that's all the more reason that
she had a history of running away, but then her family also had a history of knowing where she was at and not reporting it or not saying anything. So that's another factor, as well.
She needed help. And the thing is, she kept ending up at the same place. She kept ending up at David's. And listen, the first time it happened, she was 13. And
she's 13 and doesn't drive. So how is she getting from Lake Elsinore all the way down to the Hollywood Hills or the second house? And it's funny because in this video too, later on, Steve, brings up or mentions he doesn't really mention it. He acknowledges it, but he won't mention it. And I found that a little funny because, everybody on Reddit has found this second home that apparently David has been hiding Celeste in. It's the infamous house where they did the live stream. There's a ton of pictures, there's a photo of David and Celeste in the bathroom together where she's covering her face. But for some reason, nobody's acknowledging that there's a second house. I don't know.
This just can't. I understand. I totally understand with what others are saying about there's a narrower focus, so you can build the case like homicide or not. But she should have never been there in the first place to ever be put in that position. And as a missing persons investigator, I deal with so many runaways, and it's just so frustrating to see that let's do something about that as well, because I have case after case where the DA's office declines to charge, if charges even get sent up in the first place, for these sex crimes against minors, and she shouldn't have been there. And I understand, yes, she very likely was being difficult and was running away and had her own idea how things should go in her life. But she is not of age to consent. And if the family couldn't handle that, then CPS or school or something should have been called in to intervene. And there's so safeguards are in place. But it just I see this keep happening, and this is the result. But the thing is, we got to think back and say, like, okay, why? How did this even happen in the first place? Like, why was she in the Hollywood Hills? Why was she 70 miles from home?
Great question. There was this video from Afton Fared here. Steve, did you ever get any context? There was that video she's running in the street. Were you ever able to, kind of fill in the gaps as to what was happening in that particular video?
Is that the one where she's like, if it's the one I think
she's getting in a car, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's heading to a car that was taken from a liquor store, convenience store type of a shop there in Lake Elsinore where she was from. And it was one of the times that she was leaving again. And listen, there's no doubt she was a runaway, but there's also something that was, she had a place to go. And I guess that, there shouldn't have been. Like, she's not of age to consent, not of age to make these decisions. So yes, we can put some blame on her, but I mean, we also need to make sure that those safeguards are in place and the proper, where I really get upset in this case is that there was an active missing persons case that they had filed and it was open, yet we now know of 3 occasions where she's caught on video and stuff, even at family events. And it was never reported to law enforcement that they had seen her, talked to her, that she wasn't truly missing. She would show up for these events and then go back to her runaway life, and that's not the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, I have a bunch of follow-ups for Steve, but Michael Friedman, to you, at the very least, also, what about a negligence charge to the parents? I mean, this is a minor child who's not in their. They have no control over her. She's running away. I mean, is it not the parents' responsibility at that age to make sure that she is at home?
I think from the prosecutor's perspective and from a defense attorney's perspective, it would be unlikely to see those kinds of things become the focus of criminal charges, because so much of what we're talking about may not be ideal behavior and it may be even seemingly suspicious, but there's all kinds of things that people do every day that are not, how we would want our children to behave or how we would expect parents of children to behave or whatnot. But those things aren't crimes, right? So the notion of her not consenting to being at the house, right? I mean, I don't really see a prosecutor charging someone with taking a minor to a house, right? If there's like direct evidence of some sort of assault once there, fine. Now there's direct evidence. But it's always the case that when there's an investigation, and you shine a light into these dark corners, that there's all kinds of behavior that people engage in all day long that is less than ideal. But it doesn't mean it's a crime, and it doesn't mean the authorities are going to go after it. And going back to what, Josh has continued to hammer, I especially think that's the case when you've got a homicide investigation, right? Like, robbery and homicide detectives are tough and grizzled and experienced, and they're dealing with robberies and homicides all day long. So the notion of them suddenly deciding, well, maybe we have in a negligence case against a minor's parents, it's just, I don't think that the investigation's ever going to get that far, in part because it's just not the kind of thing that is ever really going to be prosecuted. Josh made another point that's a good one, which is if there's a homicide investigation, it could become wide-ranging if charges are filed, right? But I think you'd have a sense of that by now.
Wide-ranging in what sense? What do you
mean?
Well,
so for example, right, we were talking earlier about the search warrant and what did they take, what did they find? Let's just say that, when an investigation has momentum, where there's smoke, there's fire, you usually get a lead pretty early on, right? So if you find a dead body in a car and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, there was another dead body in a car a couple months ago in another part of LA, maybe they're connected, right? Or this person who's potentially a suspect in this case has had other incidents of, young women being alleged to have been at his house, right? Now there's something to connect. But when you're dealing with like a one-off case and a one-off incident, unless there's more in those directions pretty early on, it's not going to become wide-ranging, right? It's going to be focused on like, we found a body. Was the body there as a result of a homicide? If it was the fact that it ended up how it did the result of any sort of concealment or obstruction? How did the person get there? These kinds of things. But I don't think they lose focus of the main thing, which is the homicide case.
Yeah. Josh, real quick before I get to this question about I'm going to ask Steve about the father, but someone else was asking about it.
Deladank says, but as someone who has a niece and a nephew, I do wonder why more wasn't done, which is why I believe maybe her cousin and aunt were covering up for her, in my opinion. Great question. There definitely has to have been some sort of disconnection between her and her parents, right? For them to show such a lack of care. And which is why I keep circling back around to my theory that maybe her mother, who we know who her mother to be, is not her biological mother. I don't know. I'm still sticking to my guns with that one. That Mercedes is not Celeste's biological mother. And, she's realized that there's only so much that she could do, and probably gave up on her. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Possible accessory after the fact, which I know we're putting the cart ahead of the horse. But another thing I'm going to ask Steve about is he saw a video. He thinks he knows the last person to sort of move the Tesla. If that person is not David and somebody else, are there potentially other charges, maybe lesser charges, like accessory after the fact that are coming down the pike?
Sure, if they can determine that there was a homicide. But it all starts there. If there's no accessory after the fact, if there isn't a fact that there's a homicide. So again, if it was just, they all wake up in the morning and Celeste is dead and they have no idea how it happened and she took some drugs or whatever took place, and then they all panic and dispose of her body, as awful and horrific as that is, the crime investigation probably ends with the concealment, and if they cannot find elements of foul play. But again, I'll go back to the idea that doesn't necessarily mean that an overdose might not include foul play, or supplying a minor with narcotics might not include foul play. But plenty of things can come out of this. But they're all going to have to start with determining whether or not a homicide took place. And it looks, in my view, to me, like their last hope of determining that might come out of whatever results they get from. I'm sorry if Steve said, did you say they already
Amy,
have
thank you
the
for
toxicology
subscribing.
back,
Thank
or
you,
they're
thank
still
you, thank
waiting?
you.
It's just my estimation that they do, just because the other cases around that same
Right.
time frame all have their talks back. But it doesn't mean it was a successful test.
Right. Those things are interesting too, because they have to screen for specific things. So it's not like they just, plug material into a computer and it zaps out everything that's found in that person's system.
And then if they get a positive result, they got to send it out.
They have to ask for certain panels
That's right,
to be
Deladank,
conducted, and it can
they
be
did
a
say
lengthy
that in the
process. But
video.
again, then you have to
they
ask
were going to go
yourself, okay,
report
let's
to
say
her
it comes
dad.
back
So
for fentanyl. Well, still, now you got to determine, well, who provided that to her? Was it something that she got herself? Was it provided to her? Was it provided to her by someone that knew what they were providing to her contained something serious? All of these questions that they might just not be able to answer.
Yeah. And Michael, to that point, let's say, it again, huge hypothetical. Let's
You're
say
right,
fentanyl is
Deladank,
found in her
it hasn't
system.
been confirmed
The
yet
question is here,
if
can
he
they charge
has or hasn't
dealers
been in
now
the
with
picture.
ODs?
You
Whoever
are right.
supplied it, I guess. Would they go to that step to find out if that's a big if? I'm not saying it happened. Is that a potential step?
I was just thinking, as Josh was talking about that, right? If you're the prosecutor, and it's not even necessarily the case that a prosecutor is yet assigned, right? I mean, sometimes the detectives just work these up on their own, and maybe they love to follow every single lead. But if I'm the prosecutor and we know that this is a case that's getting media attention and there's a homicide, like, you're looking to keep it simple, as I said before. And as soon as the detectives come back and think, say, you know, now we think it may be a death resulting case, right? It was an overdose. I think my gut reaction would be like, oh, you know, now we have a lot more work to do. Like this case just got a lot harder to prove. I know that those cases are a priority of prosecutors' offices around the country, and in LA, that's certainly the case. But it's a lot harder, you know, to prove who killed a person under a theory that they gave them drugs that led to an overdose. It opens the door, if you can do it, to potentially going after the dealers or the suppliers or anyone in that chain. But anytime you start talking about a chain from an evidentiary point of view, your case gets more difficult. And so that may be a viable theory. And I think Josh is right. And that the results are not necessarily going to be determinative right out the gate. And even if they are determinative, now you've got a more complicated investigation with more, you know, links in the chain to follow. Your job, I think, got harder, even if your theory has become more confirmed.
Interesting. By the way, I should have said this off the very top. Today is Veterans Day in the US of A. Anybody who served, I'd like to thank them for their service. It's a great country because of our military. And I'm sure everyone in STS Nation knows somebody or has family or friends. Tell them from Uncle Joel that I thank them for their service, and we would not be the country that we are without them. I am a firm believer in that. So thank a veteran today if you get a moment. Steve Fisher, a couple of questions for you sort of back to back. Racer Girl had asked, do you know if the dad has left the country? I think they're Salvadorian. Do you know if the father was ever
our
even
question.
really in her life, in Celeste's life?
I don't know the exact family dynamic. I know that I believe that they're legal citizens, though. I see them both with on their reports of Social Security numbers. So I think at some point they became citizens. I don't know exactly what the involvement of her father was, though, in her life. I'm not sure.
Afton Fared's father, a veteran. Look at this, Blackwood Door coming to us from the Republic of Ireland. Look after your vets and the vets in the Republic. Abbey Crossing, no truer statement. He found me this year. Uncle Joel wants you, and Uncle Sam found me. And it's never fun when Uncle Sam finds you. I just heard on the radio today, if you want to teach your kids about taxes, take 30% of their ice cream next time they have it and tell them that's what taxes are. I thought that was a great idea. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a bite out of my kid's Oreo cone that he gets after every soccer practice. By the way, my daughter has a basketball game tonight. She's the middle child. I don't forget about her, but she is the middle kid. She's such a great kid. And she said, Daddy, will you come to my basketball? So I'm going to test and ball posted on that. Basketball taking precedent. A couple more very important things. Josh Ritter, it's right at the bottom of the hour. I don't know if you need to jump. I hate to lose you, but yeah, it's a bittersweet goodbye, Josh Ritter. All but right. Josh introduced me to Michael. So now we have a new best guest thanks to Ritter. Ritter, have a great time, taking a few days off, much needed rest. You're not podcasting, are you, while you're away?
No, I hope not.
All right. You have my permission not to. I'll shoot you a text. We'll catch up.
Thank you. Good to meet you, Steve. Good to see you, Michael.
Same.
Good to see you, Josh.
So, Steve, very importantly, one of the other big pieces of information, it has been reported that you've seen the video of, I guess, the last person to drive the car. Why is this so critical? Is this something that you're still thinking about in your mind as this investigation winds on?
Well, it's, because it's, you got to believe, and there's no evidence. This video doesn't show a body being put into the frunk or taken out of the frunk or anything like that. But you got to believe she's in the vehicle at that point because it's being moved to where it's finally towed from. And then they do leave town. And when I say they, I'm not saying there's multiple people driving, what I'm saying is they, meaning David and his band, I guess, and his people that go with him on tour, left town, and that was the beginning of their tour. It started there and then went on until it was finally canceled as this, became bigger and bigger story.
I mean, Michael, if you're putting a case together as a prosecutor, how important is a video like that that would show the last person to move this vehicle, perhaps with some sort of motive? How critical is that piece of evidence?
I think it's especially important to the detectives right now, right? Because it sounds like they're still trying to figure out if there's a case. If there's a case based on, who last moved the car or who last was seen with the body or any of these things, then it obviously becomes hugely important. But if you have that footage and you're the detective and you can't find that person, or you do find that person and it doesn't really turn much up, then it's not necessarily going to lead anywhere, right? And so I think that's a good example of where the detectives may have a very conclusive lead, and it's either going to lead somewhere and be important to the prosecution, or it's going to lead somewhere that, undermines the forward motion of the investigation. So, all leads are important, but whether they lead to a prosecution or not remains to be seen. And if it does lead to the prosecution, then it may very well be a very important piece of evidence in that prosecution.
Yeah. Steve, the final thing I just want to discuss, and then we'll get some final thoughts, the timeline. So I think you said that the Tesla was last moved on July 29th, and then we go through the beginning of September before it's finally impounded. But on the last show that you were on with us, you said that you thought that she could have died as far back, I want to say, as January or February, potentially. Maybe not January, because I think there was a sighting of her. But what has happened with regards to the timeline? Has it changed in your mind over these last few weeks that you were last on for whatever reason?
So I think she was deceased a lot longer than a lot of people think. And I have said that we have digital evidence, photos that have not been released publicly. Last time that I can see her alive is January 2nd. And listen, there's a clear shift in the use of that Tesla around that time. And something happens where it's not being used anymore. It used to show up in actually a lot of his like Instagram or whatever, social media he was using, posts, he'd be in it or around it, even talked about it being detailed. And then it's just like neglected. And then another Tesla, which we didn't even know about until the search warrant was executed, that was in the garage. Then another Tesla, all of a sudden is leased. And it's, and like I said, we didn't learn about it until we saw it in the garage during the search warrant execution. But there's something strange there for sure happening. And
when did you say that? So the original, the OG Tesla, when did you say that's the last time? It used to be in his Instagram, but when did you say you stopped seeing it?
Right after the first of the year.
Wow. Michael, let me ask you about that. I mean, obviously, you know this as a federal prosecutor. Timelines are so critical here. Two questions.
Amy,
what
thanks
if
for
it
the
goes
follow.
back?
Thanks for subscribing. Thank you.
Originally said that she died sometime over the summer, I think. But now Steve's saying maybe this goes all the way back to January. So how critical is that timeline and figuring that out right now?
Yeah, I didn't realize that the timeline was that attenuated. And that seems to me, at once, suspicious. And on the other hand, it complicates things, right? Because the more, that's where the detectives' work is cut out for them, because figuring out that timeline is important, as Steve mentions, and then working that timeline becomes the challenge, right? Why did it take so long? What happened in the intervening months? Did nothing happen during certain months? If so, was that relevant, right? There's all kinds of ways of looking at it. And certainly that seems, suspicious and the kind of thing. It might be a complicating factor, but it's certainly something that they're presumably focused on.
Yeah, and then when you're working an investigation from a prosecutorial point of view, and you've got a very diligent, tenacious private investigator like a Steve Fisher. I guess how does that behind the scenes? Are you like, God, I wish this guy would get out of here? I mean, how does that complicate the process? And I'm saying that with all due respect to Steve, because I think he's doing a great job. And I think if he's irritating law enforcement, he's probably doing a really
check
good
out
job.
that song.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It sounds like Steve's doing a great job. And so hopefully it's seen that way by the detectives, because if he's doing the same, if they're doing the same sort of thorough investigation, then they're all on the same side. And as long as there's no, interference with their work, then it's not necessarily a problem. And sometimes it can frankly be helpful, right? I mean, there's ego involved, right? So the detectives aren't going to want to go out and admit that they need help, or admit that maybe they're watching this podcast right now and trying to figure out their next lead. But I don't necessarily, I'm sure it's like anyone's doing their job. And if there's a sense that someone's looking over their shoulder, it may be less than appreciated. But if they're a reputable professional and what they're saying seems helpful, like Steve's, points are, then there's no real reason to look askance at that. I don't necessarily, there's sometimes these kinds of cases where the private investigators are really pushing, right? Or they're trying to get documents in front of the detectives. Then you have to sort of question the over eagerness. But if it's just someone who shares the same mission of getting to the bottom of it and in a professional, credible way, I think that should be welcomed from someone like Steve.
100%. Steve, a final question before my final question to you from Jenny Solberg. Why is the owner of the mansion hiring their own investigator to begin with? That's a good question. What are the needs of that mansion owner? And I guess, how is he feeling about this entire situation playing out in one of his properties?
Yeah. So one thing that I'll just say to preface that is that, I do have a scope of my investigation. I'm not going out there and investigating things that didn't originate at the house or the cars that were at the house. I'm not trying to interfere with LAPD in any way. But as far as the owners doing it, if let's say this had happened at a hotel, a body been found at a hotel, big hotel chain, they're going to run an investigation to see what happened on their property. This is let's say a corporate fraud case or something. They run in-house investigations alongside. This is a person that has the means to do so and wants to know. It's a house that they moved out of state, but it's still their home, and it's a house that means a lot to them and their family, and the kids grew up there, and they designed this house and stuff. And they want to know if something like that happened in the house, it affects if they want to live there or not in the future. And quite frankly, they have a kid around the same age, and it's just something that wears on them to think that they didn't even lease it to the person, but this 14-year-old lose their life in the house, and it's something that they just want those answers to, and so they know how to go forward. So it's just simple. It's that simple. I understand why people question that, but they've got the means to do it, and they like those answers, and they had engaged with LAPD, and they weren't getting any answers, even on very basic things.
Yeah, and that can be incredibly frustrating. We had, by the way, a show last night about the bodies in the Houston bayous, and we had one of the relatives, a cousin of one of the.
I'm gonna stop the video right here. We've played pretty much the entire interview, and not sure how much Steve Fisher has to share. But you guys should go check out Surviving the Survivors page. Give them a follow. They have a ton of awesome stuff. Earlier today, we talked about all the cases that are either pending toxicology reports or some of the cases that have been deferred. And I came across a Reddit post that has a Google Sheets, and I guess they're tracking every single case, and we'll go ahead and pull that up really quick. I don't know if you guys can actually see this right now. So it says right here, True Crime with Strategic Eyes. Strategic Eyes is also another large YouTuber. content creator who's been covering this case as well. So shout out to Strategic Eyes. I believe this this document was created by Obsidian, one of his mods. And it says, I'm tracking the status of deferred cases listed on the Los Angeles Medical Examiner's website. This includes almost all public cases in 2025 up to September 10th. I can't confirm with absolute certainty that it contains every case because of the volume of case numbers. This project aims to provide transparent, factual tracking of deferred case resolutions, especially in light of inaccurate public claims regarding expected timelines. On the left, a column containing case numbers, a column containing the corresponding date of death, and then on the top row, each column after the case number and date of death identifies the date that I checked and updated the status of each case. So, Obsidian is actually updating this file every 1 to 2 days. So let's go ahead and take a look. It says, you can see here that she's got the earliest case all the way dating back all the way to June 13th. And you can see here it says cause A. I want to say it's A, B, C, and D if I'm not mistaken. Oh, these are actually just the causes for each day that she's checked. And you can see here, let's kind of just scroll out a little bit. You can see that a lot of these cases are still deferred. There's only a handful that have come back with toxicology results. You see one here, blunt trauma, homicide. Another one here is acute intoxication by the combined effects of cocaine, morphine, alprazolam, and ethanol. Alprazolam, that's another benzodiazepine. And then ethanol is alcohol. Accident, effects of fentanyl and methamphetamine, accident. Cardiac dysfunction, which is natural, effects of methamphetamine and bromazolam, another benzodiazepine. This case right here from August 14th, effects of fentanyl and cocaine, accident. Effects of fentanyl, methamphetamine, and phencyclidine, accident. And then all the cases from August 15th all the way down to when Celeste was discovered. I believe it was September 8th. Let's see. Right here, this right here is Celeste's case. So dating all the way back to, what was it? November 5th when they started tracking. Her results have been deferred. And I think at this point, we may never get any toxicology results. If you guys can see the sheer volume of all of these cases that don't have any toxicology results, there may be a huge possibility that we get nothing back, right? So yeah, this is Celeste's case. And there are a handful of, I don't know if there's any other ones on here. I know Steve Fisher shared a screenshot of some of the other cases that he's monitoring too that have come back. I don't know if these are the same cases that Steve Fisher shared, but shout out to Obsidian for keeping track of this. Let's see. Deladank said, let me see. Amy, were you the one who asked about Steve Fisher about the FBI? Amy Williams said, I really think David had help concealing Celeste's body, his brother, his manager, Nino, or Celeste lookalike. Definitely could have. I don't know. I want to find that tweet because let me see. Maybe I can just go here. We'll just go to X and we'll look for SF Investigates. SF Investigates just put out a tweet 2 hours ago, right before I did my live. And this is his second tweet that's trolling. So he's definitely cooking right here. He says that they are done, and notice right here he says they. So this is an indication that there are multiple people or more than one person who may be held responsible or liable for, putting Celeste's body in the car. This was a post that he put up yesterday, and this was really late at night. I want to say this was done at 3 o'clock in the morning. 10 p.m. I was tripping. I probably saw it at 3 o'clock in the morning. But 10:17 p.m., he put cooked. And notice that he's really, pointing people out here. He won't tell us who, but there's definitely a lot of other people. Here's another tweet that came out the other night. It said on the night, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Let me go ahead and zoom in on this. It said on the night of December 30th through the morning of December 31st, 2024, David and Celeste were together in downtown Los Angeles, where several photos were taken in public. Celeste was 14 years old at the time and about 70 miles away from her home in Lake Elsinore. Whether she was sober that night is open to interpretation. This is photo evidence of them together again on January 2nd. Wait, where's the one? Oh, there is photo evidence of them together again on January 2nd. Then on January 8th, a sizable crew was filming a music video with David out of state. And by January 11th, David is in his hometown in Texas. On January 20th, 2025, he's on a Delta flight. So the question is, where was Celeste between January 3rd and January 20th, 2025? Can anyone account for her during that time? There were many people present at that music video shoot. Did anyone see her there? What about in his hometown in Texas? Does anyone have any proof of life for Celeste Rivas Hernandez after January 2nd, 2025? January 2nd is a date that he will not let go of. And obviously I feel like he knows a lot more than we do, right? This photo right here is a photo of Celeste. Now, mind you, this is a very rare photo of Celeste Rivas Hernandez because if you've seen many photos of her, the one thing that you will notice is that she's always covering up her face. So for her to be, not covered, she definitely looks different. Master Death Hancock says, just because the manager looked the other way, them dating sites don't mean he did anything murder-wise. The rest of them did. Yeah, that's true. Definitely. But does he have any involvement in it? Did he know about it? If he did he do anything about it? No, right? And then there's also that email that came out that was addressed to David. And it's reported that that email was sent to his manager, Josh Marshall. And then Josh Marshall claimed that he didn't receive the email. So I don't know. You got to take all of that with a pinch of salt or with a grain of salt, because none of this is verified. SF Investigate, put out a tweet about it, but with AI, the way today is going, you can fake anything and get away with it. But you take a look at this photo of Celeste. It's a photo of her. These photos that I'm showing you are photos that SF Investigates collected from the camera that was left behind at David's house when he was hired by the homeowner, Mladen Trifunovic. I believe these are photos that were taken directly off of that camera. And this one's dated for December 30th, 2024 at 11:57 p.m. Both managers were sent the same email, says Master Death Hancock. Thank you. I saw a video. Let me find this video. Let me see, where is it at? Is it this one? Let me bring this one over really quick. This is a video of somebody that posted earlier this afternoon, and it seems like they were able to locate the area of where this photo was taken. These Redditors are crazy at this. Obviously, you can see here, this is like pitch black at night, but they were able to do some crazy detective shit. Let's go take a look at it. Let's watch that again. Hold on. Let's. So it says 3 minutes and 35 seconds later, David took another photo of himself approximately 100 yards further down Figueroa Street, waving a knife around. And mind you, this is the same knife that he was displaying in one of his Twitch streams, right? And I believe this is his switchblade knife that everybody was telling him that he couldn't show. And then you can tell that's David, right? Because of the nail polish on his fingers. It is a 3-minute walk south from the location of the first photo to the location of the second photo where David and Celeste were walking from and where they were going. Where were they going? Cindy, the X-Files theme songs, yeah. Were you in the vicinity of Figueroa Street and 3rd Street in downtown LA on the night of December 30th, the night before New Year's Eve? Did you pass through the Los Angeles Metro Grand Avenue Arts Bunker Hill Station, a very short walking distance from where these photos were taken on the night of December 30th? If so, or if you have any information that might help in the investigation of Celeste's death, please contact the Los Angeles Police Department. That I think that came out today. Somebody posted that 10 hours ago. Let's see, what else do we have here? This post right here. This is Asia Collins. This is you love the X-Files, Cindy? You know what? I'm gonna have to be honest with you. I don't think I ever watched a single episode. I couldn't get into it. But that's just me. But this screenshot right here, it is a screenshot of Asia Collins, and it looks like it's an Instagram message. This person took a screenshot of their story, and they sent it to Asia. And basically, it's the missing poster of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. He sent it to her, and her response was, "Bro, this is my friend's girlfriend." And then he responded by saying, "Is there a way that you can confirm that she's only 13? Then she says, "What the fuck? You're lying," right? So I don't know if Asia knew or didn't know anything about it, but I'm sure she had to have been in the presence. Those knives are very, very illegal to have no switchblade. I have so many questions. Why didn't anyone staying at David's house take their prescriptions with them when David moved out? You know what? That's a great question, Amy. Why didn't they? There's a lot of things that were left behind. When SF Investigates went back to the house, apparently all of those farm implements or what have you were still at the house. They were still in the box. They were untouched. And if you bought those devices to use, wouldn't you have wanted those removed? I mean, obviously the search warrant was served before they were able to do any moving, but yeah, I would have moved them. What? Cindy said, what? Well, there were some really good standalone episodes, but it did get odd with alien conspiracies. Yeah. Just, you know what? I'm going to have to give it a try, though, because X-Files is a classic. So eventually, sometime in my lifetime, I'm going to have to watch an episode. Is it out anywhere? Is it out on Netflix or anything? I'll have to check it out. Who is the woman who had that TikTok about taking a little break? People not being, you're talking about this video right over here.
I want to go back to streaming so bad. Don't give me.
This is Asia Collins as well. This is the same person. And for those of you guys who don't know who Asia Collins is, this is one of David's close friends. And I believe she was also one of the 3 or 4 people who were on the tour bus the day that they left on July 29th. But yeah, this is Asia Collins. She recently posted this on TikTok, I believe. Let's listen to what she has to say.
I want to go back to streaming so bad. Don't get me wrong. Like, I actually love streaming, and I hopefully will come back to like some platforms soon. But the streaming community is so severely toxic right now. And I need people to understand that, like, there's so much stuff that goes behind the scenes that you guys just do not see. But I digress. You guys will probably find out some of the people I'm talking about very soon, because when you're a bad person, eventually everyone finds out naturally. That's the thing about bad people. They expose themselves. I don't need to do anything. Karma's a bitch.
Master Death said, I think some people might have planted them to make it look like an OD. The PI said that he thought it happened on TV. Of course they saw that. Not sure what that last part says. I think some people might have planted them. Oops. I think some people might have planted them, make it look like an OD. The PI said that he thought happened on TV. Of course, they saw that. Not sure. Okay, I'm trying to remember. Let's see. I don't know if I have a video of. I'm sure I can probably find one on. Tracking deferred cases. Let's see. This is a pretty crazy picture. I don't know if you guys can see it or if you guys have a monitor that's bright enough. But apparently this is a photo of Celeste. Now I'm looking at my other monitor, and it's like a very up close photo of her. Maybe they left. Jad said maybe they left for evidence on purpose. You know what? I mean, I don't. It's possible. I mean, as much of a genius I think he was when it comes to music, I don't think he was smart enough to leave evidence behind like that. I personally think that he had greater plans to do things with her. When he came back from his tour, but they decided to impound the car and move it before his plans could come to fruition. let me see. These are it said deleted Celeste videos and how everyone close around David knew her. So this is a photo of Celeste. I don't know if you guys can see it. This photo right here, it's a collage of photos, right? And I believe this was a concert that was at the Fonda. Photos and videos suggest that Celeste was here at the concert going backstage. This is Celeste right here in the black hoodie. You can see that she's got her big curly hair, and it looks dyed or colored to me. It looks like it's got a little red tinge to it. And then this person on the right, I believe, is David's brother, and I think his name is Caleb, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong. Let's see. Because the PI said that he thought the OD right off the bat. Somebody also mentioned that too, that Steve Fisher is really pushing the OD cause of death. But also, I mean, this tweet that he just posted that he's trolling doesn't make any sense. If it's an OD, they're done. They're cooked. If so, who? I want to go back and read a tweet that he put out. And I want to read it to you guys because it was very... It was, I don't know, it just made me feel some type of way reading it. Let's see. Where is it? Because he's really calling people out. All right, Steve, where is it? That part, Asia was on a tour bus with Neo. Those two unfollowed each other. The only thing is providing is they know more than they are saying. Oh, absolutely, Amy. 100%. But why do you think they're not saying anything? Do you think it's because they have attorneys who are advising them not to speak? Were they aware of the search warrant and had time to clean up before? Jad, no. Actually, I believe they were still on tour or out of state. If I'm not mistaken, the warrant was a forced search warrant, so they went in when nobody was there, and they conducted their investigation for about 12 hours. They collected stuff, electronics. What about the motive? She cheated. Guy posted all that stuff about killing right before she died, points to violence. Anything's possible at this point, right? We don't have any concrete evidence. The LAPD is not speaking out, and I think anything could have happened at this point. I think once the toxicology reports come back, we'll have a better idea of what direction we're going to go. And I think depending on if the toxicology reports show anything in her system, then they can consider what type of charges they're going to go after. But if the toxicology reports come back negative, then I think we might be stuck in the sand on this one. And that's going to be something that's really, really, really horrible for Celeste. They might be stuck, to be honest with you. But Steve Fisher, he's really, really playing his hand heavy on these opioids and the OD. So there's definitely there has to be some information that he knows that we don't. And I think in due time, I think with all of these tweets and these subliminal messages that he's putting out, or the trolling, that it's going to cause pressure, and it's going to force somebody in David's camp to crack and speak. Unless David is the one who's forking up his own money to provide him and his team counsel. And then in that case, his attorney is probably telling everybody to shut up and not say anything. But I don't know. It's weird. Going back to what Amy said earlier, I think once Celeste's body was identified, I believe everybody started unfollowing everybody or each other. And this was just to kind of distance themselves from, knowing each other. But, nothing that doesn't mean anything, I think all that really shows is trying to cover up. I feel like it may have been a love triangle or jealousy. A love triangle between who? Okay. This was another Reddit thread that I joined. The community was banned for violating Rule 2. Good to know. Let's see. This one has good stuff on there. Dave Idiots. Here's another video on that footage. That's the photo of Celeste. And so basically just lining up, a photo from the daytime and at night. Pretty much exactly, but what does that tell us? What does that tell us with the distance? That they were out hanging out? I read a theory or speculation online that they were out in that area doing drugs or opiates. But, all of that's just speculation. There's no proof. He's not thinking about this as a guy who wants fame. He does everything by her birthday, found right before her next birthday today, planned this over 2 years. Yeah, it definitely sounds. I mean, if you listen to his music, you listen to a lot of the stuff that he's put out. And I'll show you another video, for example, where he's talking about a relationship. Let's see.
Who you thinking of? Or you just were making songs?
I wasn't really thinking of nobody. I didn't even have a girlfriend at that point. You know what I'm saying?
You have a girlfriend now?
It's just a very complicated point in my life right now. Especially navigating through an album process, you gotta have a muse. You gotta write songs about something.
You gotta have a muse.
Oh shit! Mm-hmm. So you be thinking of TP? I'm doing too much. I'm asking. Who you thinking of?
Weird. Or this video. Let me pull this one up. Let me open it with a different player.
Who you are, essentially. So it's like, I'll give you an example. Who you are, essentially. So it's like, I'll give you an example. Like, you get a gift from your girlfriend, right? But then she's actively cheating on you at the same time. But she gave you that gift. It's not actions speak louder. I mean, she's actively doing something and then telling you one thing and doing the exact opposite. You ever been in a situation where like...
Hold on, let me watch this again. Neo, David, and Celeste, the love triangle theory. Neo, David, and Celeste. So you don't think Neo and David were maybe potential lovers?
Who you are, essentially. So it's like, I'll give you an example. Like, you get a gift from your girlfriend, right? But then she's actively cheating on you at the same time. But she gave you that gift. It's not actions speak louder. I mean, she's actively doing something and then telling you one thing and doing the exact opposite. You ever been in a situation where like...
I just feel like he's talking about his own situation. I have another video where he's telling a story apparently about a friend. But if you listen to what he's talking about, I don't think he's talking about a friend. I think he's talking about himself.
I'll tell you guys a story. I had a friend whose girlfriend continuously broke his heart.
Hold on.
Was continuously doing things that
let me see if I can
knows.
slow this down really quick. I don't know how to slow this. I don't know how to use a PC. Here I am streaming on a PC.
I'll tell you guys a story. I had a friend whose girlfriend continuously broke his heart and was continuously doing things that he knows that she'll keep doing, and he'll keep on having to take her back because that love is so strong. And she'll keep promising that she'll change, but she never changes. And he'll be at the verge of breaking up with her and leaving her. And then she'll be like, wait, can you please wait for me? I'll change. I promise I'll change. I'll change soon. I'll fix these problems. And he'll be like, okay, maybe I do have this faith that you will change. So I'll stay, even at my own expense. I'm the one being hurt. I'm the one getting my heart broken. I'll stay because that love I have for you is so strong. And sometimes I wonder, as a simple person, as we all are simple people committing these sins itself. I'll tell you guys a story. I had a friend who's.
Let's listen to that again.
I'll tell you guys a story. I had a friend whose girlfriend continuously broke his heart and was continuously doing things that he knows that she'll keep doing, and he'll keep on having to take her back because that love is so strong. And she'll keep promising that she'll change, but she never changes. And he'll be at the verge of breaking up with her and leaving her. And then she'll be like, wait, can you please wait for me? I'll change. I promise I'll change. I'll change soon. I'll fix these problems. And he'll be like, okay, maybe I do have this faith that you will change. So I'll stay, even at my own expense. I'm the one being hurt. I'm the one getting my heart broken. I'll stay because that love I have for you is so strong. And sometimes I wonder, as a simple person, as we all are simple people committing these sins itself. I'll tell you guys a story. I had a friend who's.
What do you think? You think he's telling a story about a friend, or you think he's talking about his own relationship? What are you guys' thoughts? Trying to see if I have anything else. Let me see. So there's you guys all know that there's a photo of Celeste apparently with an engagement ring, and on her left index finger where the ring is at, there's a tattoo that's in red. So I came across a Reddit post, and they were talking about a potential other person who, I believe they were speculating and saying that this person was David's ex-girlfriend, or maybe a person he was dating or engaged to. Let me go ahead and show you some photos really quick. So this is a photo of a person. And you guys can see right here on her arm, she's got an actual tattoo that says David. It says D4Vd right here. You guys can see that right there. And I don't know if it's this arm or not. This person right here is the same person. You know what, Master Death? I don't know too much about this Gus person. The rumors that I've heard long time ago when this case was early on was that Gus was killed in 2020. He was shot and died. However, I don't know. I haven't heard anything else about this person, and apparently this person was maybe in a relationship with Celeste. Can't confirm that either. Let me go back to this photo first, because this is the one that's floating around online that most people are probably familiar with, right? This is the photo of the engagement ring, and you can see here on her left ring finger it says David, right? And so people online, people on Reddit have been saying that this person may not be Celeste and may actually be this other person. And the name of this person is Cassandra Rose. Don't know too much about this person, but people are saying that they were dating, they're possibly engaged. Not sure too much about it, but came across a ton of photos Okay, this one just shows that this girl. It's funny, she has a septum piercing, right? And we know who else had a septum piercing, right? This person did. You know, after seeing this photo right here, hold on, I'm going to make this photo smaller right here, and I'm going to open up another photo. And you guys can fight me on this, but hold on. Oops, not this one. Where'd it go? Do these two people look alike? What do you guys think? Master Death said he's paying girls to act as doubles as they sign NDAs. He pays for those tattoos and wears her clothes. This chick X said she dated David for a short time and he did too. Okay. Yeah, I never followed David before any of this happened. Actually knew some of his music but didn't know who he was. What do you guys think about these two images? I don't know why it keeps going back. Let me just go back to this one. This photo right here, if it'll open up. This image right here is a picture of a girl named Heidi Hernandez. And Heidi Hernandez is someone who very early on was reported to be the biological mother of Celeste. I don't know. If you ask me, I think they look very, very alike. What do you guys think? Amy said David had a type. Everybody looks like Celeste, two different people. Absolutely. Absolutely. This girl with the septum piercing. Obviously, Celeste had a septum piercing. There's the engagement ring. And then, let me see. And then there's this photo right here that everybody was saying was Celeste. But now people are saying that it's not Celeste. It's actually this girl, Cassandra Rose. And look, you can see in this picture, he's wearing that chain around his neck. Her David tattoo didn't stay. The ink blew out. Red tattoos don't last long at all. Yeah, normally when it comes to red ink, depending on your body or your skin, your body can absorb that red tattoo ink. A lot of people have allergies to red ink, so it's a color that doesn't really last long for some people. There was something else I was going to show you guys. Let's see. Play through here. I don't know. Why is it not playing? Okay, I need to learn how to use my PC. I don't really know what I'm doing. Let's play it on here.
Who you are, essentially. You know? So it's like, I'll give you an example.
I don't know.
Like, you get a gift from your girlfriend, right?
What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Celeste also had a tattoo that said David, or do you guys think that you know, those photos that were popping up were never Celeste in the first place? I know on Reddit, a lot of photos have been coming out lately showing proof that David and Celeste were together. Let me see if some of these. All right. I think earlier I showed you guys a photo of. All right. Are you guys still there? All right. I think we're good. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I think I showed you guys a photo earlier of SF Investigates. I showed 4 photos and said one of them was taken. It was a music video shoot. And the group that shot it was Schooly Films, the one who did the music video. Schooly Films posted Instagram just acknowledging, that they're aware of the situation and they're combing through all of the footage. And somebody left a comment on their actual Instagram page and asked them if they had noticed, if Celeste was actually there at the photo shoot. And this is what they had to say about it. This person said, "So was she on set or no?" And Sophia Dayani responded back and said, "No, thank you. It's frightening to consider the guy's mentality if he did away with her, then went on to create this. How weird for you to experience it." And Sophia Dayani works for Schooly Films. So if anybody's wondering, this is where it comes from. Yeah, that's weird that she has this tattoo of him. I think another one of the photos that came out from SF Investigates was this photo right over here. And this photo is a photo of the shed. This was taken on January 11th at 7:24 p.m. People of Reddit have found this photo, and God, I have to tell you, the property that David and his family own is huge. Look how huge this yard is. I don't want to go up any further because it does show their address, and I don't want to put it out there. But this was one photo. This is the photo of that shed, I guess you could say, from January 11th. More photos of supposedly this is Celeste. Oh, I forgot to mention the one weird thing about this person right over here, right? I don't know if you guys have heard or aware of anything, but this person, Cassandra Rose, let me back up really quick before I continue. Celeste apparently had an Instagram or a TikTok account that she used to run. And somewhere over time, Cassandra was actually posting from that account. I can't remember. Is it the Yay Woohoo account? The Yay Woohoo TikTok? Supposedly it used to belong to Celeste, and what's it called? Cassandra Rose was posting videos or photos onto that TikTok account. So that was really weird. Master Dad said, "Remember, he tried to get the young Celeste the same butterfly tattoo on her neck as the old one. He needs double that older to deflect. He's been with the minor, and when he kills her, he says that he was with the older one." Yeah. I don't know. That's just a little weird. But yeah, no, you can definitely tell that he was infatuated with her. He was obsessed with her. To me, sometimes I feel like he wanted to be her. And maybe his, his transformation, maybe one of his next characters was supposed to be him disguised as her. I don't know. This is just a weird case. And the fact that we're not getting any kind of updates or any kind of responses from the LAPD or updates, it's driving people crazy, me included. I think at the end of the day, we just want justice for Celeste. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all that I have for now. I do want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. I think we were on for about 2 hours. But yeah. Anyways, if you guys like this video, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Hopefully, I'll be coming on more often. I'm barely learning how to do this whole live stream thing. Normally, I'm the person behind the camera shooting other people, not literally, but with the camera. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Like this video, it helps out the algorithm. Obviously, our goal is to the freezer theory, kept in the shed, removed and placed in the frunk. You know what? It's possible. I mean, this Tesla was from Texas. I want to show you guys a weird video too. Speaking of a shed, you just reminded me, but I have to make sure that there's no music being played because I don't want this video to get copywritten or struck. Where is it? It's called Weird Motel Video. Oh, is it not going to play? Hopefully it does. Have you guys seen this video? I don't know what this is, but I agree with you, Amy. We have to be patient. We have to let the police and law enforcement do their jobs. We have to. I know it's frustrating that we don't have answers and we want justice, but we just have to be patient. Obviously, hopefully we'll get results, sooner than later, but we've got to be patient. I don't know what he's counting for. What is he doing? You guys saw that? One, two, three, four. 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know. Really odd behavior. Oh, look at that person. That's Asia Collins, by the way. It's weird because Asia Collins does resemble Celeste a bit in this video. But where are they? Where are they headed? Maybe that was the camera that they left behind that had all that footage. Who knows? Yeah, but that's it, you guys. I think that's it for tonight. I am going to be calling it a night. Thank you guys to everybody who stopped by. Amy, thank you for subscribing. Master Death, thank you, thank you, thank you. Cindy, shout out to Cindy. What up, Cindy? Jad. Who else is in here? And everybody else from earlier that stopped by. We had Preacher. We had Jim. Sweet. Who else? Jazzy. Thank you for stopping by. I said Jim already, I think. Deladank was in the house. But yeah, that's it. If you guys like this video, please hit that like button. Oh, Dubs. What up, Dubs? Shout out to Dubs. You want more? You want more videos, or you want more answers? Oh, no problem, Cindy. Thank you for stopping by. Something happened in that shed. I don't know. It's hard to say if anything happened in that shed. But there's a photo of it. Why is there a photo of it? I don't know. It's weird. In one vid, David does that thing with his finger like a kid in The Shining. He had 2 personalities. I think he had more than 2 personalities. I think he had maybe 3 or 4. But we'll never know, right? Maybe we'll get another leak song in the next couple of days. I don't know. But again, thank you guys for stopping by. I'm going to call it a night. I do have a video shoot tomorrow in the morning, so I still got to prepare and pack for that. All of you guys that stopped by, thank you guys very much. I will see you guys. When will I see you guys again? Maybe I'll do another stream coming up soon. But I don't know. Maybe I'll do another live if more information comes out. I do have to go. My dog is going crazy. I think I do need to take him out for a walk. All right, you guys. I will see you guys. Take care. Peace.